Welcome to the 211 Talk Show. I am your host, Dr. Michelle Vaughn, aka Dr. MV, the Executive Director here at Kishwaukee United Way. Today we have a special show, a special guest. We're talking all things home ownership, what's possible. Devyn Grzywa from FNBO. How are you?
I am doing well, Dr. Vaughn. How are you?
I am wonderful. Listen, I love your vibe already.
Thank you.
Okay, so before we talk about home ownership, because that's what this show is about, who is Devyn? Talk a little bit about your background. What brought you here to DeKalb? Did you grow up here? So who are you?
Absolutely. So as Dr. Vaughn mentioned, my name is Devyn Grzywa. I'm a mortgage lender with FNBO. I actually have been with FNBO for 13 years. So
13.
A very large portion of my life has been spent at the bank.
You're committed.
I am committed. I love it. It's a great
Okay.
company. It's been great to me. I'm actually a transplant into Sycamore. So I graduated from Sycamore High School, and now my husband and my two kids and I, we own a home in Sycamore. But I've worked in DeKalb for the majority of that 13 years. So
Okay.
I like to say I'm a part of both communities because I get to live in one and work in the other.
Yes.
But my history a little bit, I started as a bank teller with FNBO and then worked my way into being a banker and then later into mortgages.
So was banking something that you've always wanted to venture into?
Not at all.
Okay.
No. my
Okay.
very first job was in retail, right? And so I always had a passion for working with people, the conversations, the people you meet, just everything that retail has to offer.
Yes.
And when I started with the bank, it was just kind of a tough time for me. My position, the company I was working for, wasn't doing so well. And so coming into the bank was an easy move for me just to continue to have a paycheck, and my love for it just kind of grew from there, right? So banking has been great to me, and I've loved everything I've been able to do.
Wow, you turned a paycheck into a viable career.
Absolutely.
Yes. So let's talk about home ownership, okay? With United Way, we serve a population who we note as ALICE, the ALICE families, okay? ALICE families are individuals who are working, but they're kind of underemployed, meaning they're basically living paycheck to paycheck, doing the best they can to make ends meet, okay? So is home ownership possible for an individual that we would look at as an ALICE individual? Talk about the steps of home ownership for a first-time buyer. What would they need to know? Because we know that they're already nervous. They have anxiety. They don't know what they really need to do. So talk to us about that particular population, a group of people.
Yeah, absolutely. So I like to believe that home ownership is possible for anybody, right? Sometimes it takes a little extra work to get ourselves ready for that. But that's why it always starts early and in the very beginning, right? So finding that person that's going to give you the best advice and guidance and not just look at you as a potential number on a spreadsheet is very important, right?
Rewind that.
I feel too much nowadays. That's kind of what happens in the business world. And people aren't willing to put the time in to help educate and get people to the point of helping to reach those goals and dreams, right? So, some of the things that you can do early on is really start to kind of manage your expectations and your budget, feel out what it is that you can't afford for housing, right? Because most times, no matter how you're living, you're paying rent or you're paying a living expense somewhere. So, what does that look like for you? On top of what you're paying for that and other bills, how much are you able to save, right? I know it's easy from this side of it to say, find a job that you're making decent money when that's not always the case out there, right? But I think the important thing is understanding your own budget, having a budget. It's easier said than done sometimes, but continuing to work hard at it, and then looking at your credit. It's hard. Credit is hard. It's one of the worst things out there because you can try really hard and have one minor hiccup, and then you're struggling to get back up, right? But taking the right steps to continue to improve credit or build good credit. And then, like I said, trying to save as much as you can, even if it's $10 a week. Sometimes it's a long game.
Good. That's powerful.
But having patience and giving yourself that goal to reach, right? So what I like to do is, I sit down with people and we talk about that, like, what are your goals? What is it that you would really like to do? Where would you see yourself as far as owning a home or your living situation in even 5 years? Like, it doesn't have to be tomorrow. And then continuing to work together to get there.
You know what? Listen, you said a lot, right? But when I met you in a community event, was it about 2 or 3 weeks ago? I don't even know when it was, but the room was packed, and I walked inside the room, and I saw my assistant sitting at your table, and the table was full, and I said, and you said, Dr. Vaughn, we'll make room for you. I was done. Listen, because not too many people really want to make room, right? And so everything you just said up until this point regarding a prospective nervous new home buyer, or is it possible, they're nervous coming inside of the bank. Many of the families that we impact, right, they really don't know about, budgeting. What is budgeting? How do I even build my credit score? Is it possible? Because some of them are first generational home buyers, right? So I was that young single mom in my earlier years, didn't know anything about everything you just talked about. And so I know from firsthand experience the long game and planning it out, but it's still being possible when you connect with a banker like yourself.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about the different types. So once a person comes to see you, Devyn, I'm here to see Devyn. Okay, and they greet you, and you sit them down. Do you share with them the different loans that are available? Like, how do you explain? Because there's so many different loans: FHA, conventional, USDA. Like, what would they like? What do you talk about that?
Yeah, so kind of depends on the person or the couple and where they're at kind of in their journey, right? So if it's very early on and they're very new and green and they don't know the answers to those questions, I like to start slow because it's very overwhelming. There's so much to know when it comes to buying a house, and I don't feel that as a home buyer you need to know it all up front. So I approach it at their level, how quickly they want us to move through it. So I usually always start my conversations off getting to know them as an individual. Let me learn a little bit about you. What is your goal? Like I said before, like, what's your goals look like? What's your timeline look like? Like, let's manage those expectations first, and then know that, yes, are there parameters that we need to see to qualify for a mortgage? Absolutely. But you don't have to make as much money as you might think. You don't have to have as high of a credit score as you might think.
You're giving them hope in the door.
A little bit of hope, like you don't have to shoot for an 800 credit score and to make $100,000 a year. We have smaller expectations, so let's work to that first level and see where you get. So it's just allowing them kind to help guide me on how far into the conversation they want to go the first time we meet.
You're like feeding their hope along the way. Right?
I try. I mean, I try to be very positive because I don't like to ruin people's dreams.
I'm inspired already again. Dr. Vaughn, where do you want to begin? Right. Okay. So now, what will be the advantage of owning property versus renting? Talk about owning versus renting.
Of course. So owning a home is a long-term investment, right? Okay. It helps build your equity, your personal equity, gives you something to potentially, pass on later in life, right? Of course, there's a lot of other things that come along with home ownership. I mean, the nice thing about it is it's your place. You do with it what you will. It's your home.
Walls, the color.
Absolutely. You don't have to answer to anybody, right? You answer to yourself. Yes. On the flip side of that, right? You don't have a landlord to call when something breaks, but again, you get to take pride in then putting in that time, that effort, and that investment into your own home. And then the hope is over time, you start, the investment should pay off for you by building equity in your home. So as you pay off your mortgage.
What is equity to the person who doesn't know?
Yeah, absolutely. So as you continue to make your mortgage payments and that principal balance continues to get less and less and less, that equity is that difference between your principal balance and what your home value is. So it's that dollar amount in there. And there's ways that you can take advantage of that down the line, whether it's selling a home for a profit or using it for other investments in your life. So it just can help you build your own personal portfolio.
Wow. This is good information, people. Listen. Okay. Let's talk about, so for the couple or for the individual who is already a homeowner, okay, talk about refinance. What is refinancing? What does that look like? Just talk about that.
Yeah, so refinancing, there's several different reasons why somebody would want to refinance their
Okay.
mortgage because it's not the best route for everybody, right? So first and foremost, people think of refinancing when the interest rates drop and you want to take advantage of an interest rate savings to help lower your monthly mortgage payment. So, we would look at interest rates. If you have a 7% rate, rates today are 5%, that's a big
Rates
chunk
are
of savings.
5%.
Well, they're not 5%. I'm just saying,
I was
as
gonna
an
say,
example, I wish they were 5%.
my goodness.
We might see that kind of scenario in a couple
Right.
years, but like let's say that the rates do come down and it makes sense to save money.
Okay.
You also can refinance to shorten your term. So say that you're able to pay more on your mortgage and you want to lessen your term on your mortgage. There's options for 30-year, 20-year, 15-year, 10-year mortgages, depending on your budget, your goals. Another reason why some people might refinance is to take advantage of that equity that we talked about, whether it be to consolidate debt.
Okay.
So if you have credit cards that you're paying higher interest rates, you could consolidate that into your home.
Wow.
Yeah, there might be repairs you want to do on your home, so you could tap into your equity with a cash out to throw money
Cash
back
out.
into your home. The downfall to that, though, is
Okay.
especially with debt consolidation, is managing going forward and not rebuilding that debt back up and then not having the means to find a way to consolidate it later on. So it's an uphill battle, right? Got to be disciplined. But yeah, so you refinance for a variety of reasons. And when I have conversations with individuals about refinancing, we talk about what's the need. Does it financially make sense? Because of course it costs to refinance. So does that cost make sense to the savings you're getting or to meet the goal that you're trying to achieve?
Your name now is Coach Devyn.
Put that on my business card.
Business card. Coach Devyn is in the building. Okay, so let's talk a lot now about community. Do you offer it with FNBO? Do you offer home ownership workshops or sessions? What do you offer to those who are in the community and other organizations? Do you partner with them?
Yeah, so we have community lenders that do a lot of that outside of this immediate area, but that is something that in the near future that we're looking to offer in our area as well. A lot of that kind of slowed down once COVID hit because a lot of the in-person stuff, not that we haven't offered some of that educational stuff along the way since then, it's just they're not very well attended. I think that COVID had a lot to do with that. So I think we're in a good time now to start ramping a lot of that back up. I know personally I use a lot of social media. That's where a lot of young people are that kind of fall into that first time home buyer range, and try to share tips and tricks and videos or articles out there that way. But yeah, the bank as a whole, I mean, we have a lot of community educational pieces that we offer through those channels.
Well, it's very much appreciated and needed for individuals. Okay, so Devyn, let's talk now about your opinion, all right, as it relates to volunteerism, because we're United Way and we're all about volunteering, advocating for different causes that are meaningful to us. Do you involve yourself in the community? And if so, in what way have you involved yourself with volunteering?
Absolutely. So my husband and I, we always joke around, but I always tell him I have a very philanthropic heart. So, and I have always told him too, my long-term career goal would be at some point to get out of the more corporate world and probably into nonprofit because I love to give, right?
Oh, give me a call.
I will. I absolutely will. Don't worry. I'll be calling all of my connections at some point in my life. Anyway, but I sometimes overdo it, but I love any opportunity that I have to give back in any way. So my personal involvement right now, I'm involved with FSA, so I'm a board member for the Family Service Agency,
Wonderful
which I've
agency.
learned a lot over the past year from my fellow board members and what that organization does. FNBO does a signature event every fall where we do a fundraiser for local food pantries. So we put together that for like the Barb Food Mart, Sycamore Food Pantry. We've done them for the Northern Illinois Food Bank in the past. The Day of Caring, we come with bells on next week. Little shout out to that. But really any chance. I mean, if there's an opportunity for volunteering out there, whether it's through work or just something personally, I try to hop on it the best I can. It's not always easy to find the time to get out there and volunteer, right? So I'm very fortunate that my position allows me to get out there and do a lot of that as part of my job. So it's easier for me to say, get out there and go, right? But yeah, and then I'm also involved with the DeKalb Chamber, so I'm on their board, and so I have a big love for the local chambers and what they do. So yeah, just a little bit here and there.
Listen, you are a shero. Nonprofits wouldn't make it today if it wasn't for the volunteers.
Absolutely.
So kudos to you, and thank you so much for everything that you do. I have a final question. What does Live United mean to you?
Oh, that's a great question. So I think that it can mean many things to one person, but I think for me, it's understanding that we're all here, we're all people, right? It doesn't matter your background, it doesn't matter where you're at today. We're all here, we're all trying to live a life, we're all trying to make it, in our own way. So let's just love one another, right? Let's live united, let's live together, let's understand each other, don't be judgmental, just accept everyone. I feel that would be really what comes to mind when I hear that term.
You heard it from Devyn. Acceptance is key, and just with the willingness to understand.
Absolutely.
That just knocks down all barriers. Well, listen, thank you so much for stopping by our 2-on-1 office studio. It's been great. Thank you for educating our viewers on home ownership and what's possible. If someone wants to get in contact with you, how will they connect with you? Do you have an email?
Yeah, absolutely. So the best way to get a hold of me is either my email, which is my first initial and last name, so DGRZYWA at FNBO.com, or you can give me a call at 815-991-9822.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, my friend. It's been wonderful, and until next time.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.